All right, everyone, it looks like we've got Coach Kelly on. Coach, how are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good. All right, we'll go ahead and get started with a little bit of a different format today. We're going to do a Q&A live with the media. So here we're going to start off with Eric Hansen. Eric, go right ahead.
Hey, Coach. I wanted to circle back and follow up on the linebacker conversation from Monday. Jack Lamb had kind of a niche role for you last year. I wondered what your expectations were for him this season, and also with Jordan jumping into the transfer portal, will Osita stay at running back or move back to linebacker?
Well, let's address the first question. That's Jack Lamb. We still really have a lot of confidence in Jack, but he's been slowed by his injury, which was career threatening. During camp, he had a little bit of a setback with that hip. He has worked through that. So he's been behind, quite frankly, in a very, very competitive situation, as you know. We expect that Jack is going to contribute, immediately for us in special teams and continue to work and getting him back at 100%. So again, I think from our perspective, this is a very competitive position. Jack is a guy that is rounding back into playing shape, but it's going to take some time. Excuse me. I think your second part of the question was about Osita. Osita was going to be a niche player for us on offense. And when I say I'll define niche player, a short yardage back, a goal line back. So he never really left the linebacker core. So he's been cross-trained at the position and would continue to spend most of his time with the linebackers. So, if we're breaking down the depth chart, he is still with the linebackers and continues to work exclusively now with the linebackers. And we've given him enough work at running back in camp that the couple of plays that we needed him for, he's tuned in for. So if we needed to get into that package, he's ready to go.
All right, we'll continue on with Pete Sampson of The Athletic.
Brian, was curious from a protocol standpoint how social distancing was going to work in the coaches' boxes on Saturday. You cram a lot of guys into a small space normally, and communication, I think, would probably be a big reason why. How will that function on Saturday in terms of who's where?
Well, we've got the protocols won't change relative to COVID on game day. I mean, CDC will still dictate social distancing. We have glass that's set up in between the coaches in terms of where they are going to work. So again, I think the most important thing is that we have had to pare down who's in there and what their functions are. So we've gone through that over the last 2 Saturdays with communication, with headsets and, setting up our coaches in a position where they can, in fact, safely work. So who's going to be where particularly, Tommy Reese will be in the box with Coach McNulty. Lance will be on the field, working with Tommy in terms of getting the plays in and out of the game. Dell will be essentially working on personnel coming in and out of the game, and Coach Quinn will be on the field. Defensively, Clark Lee will be in the box. Certainly, he'll be up there with Terry Joseph. On the field, Mike Mickens and Mike Elston. Brian Polian on the field as well. So that's pretty much the breakdown. And then the rest has to be, either on the field, if you are an analyst, has to fall under the NCAA rules in terms of years out of school. So, Kerry Cooks will have to be down on the field, for example, whereas GAs will be in the box to do charting. But again, they have to follow protocols and certainly CDC guidelines.
All right, we'll move next to Pete Byrne of WSBT.
Hey, Brian, speaking strictly from a football standpoint, not COVID related, what would you say is your biggest concern heading into this Saturday? And is that any different than what your typical season opener concerns might be?
I don't think they're mutually exclusive anymore. I don't know that you can exclude COVID from this preparation. It's unlike any preparation that I've ever had. So if we were living in a vacuum, my concerns would be like they have been for 30 years. How's your team going to respond when it's now game day? How do they handle the going from practice to competitive mindset? Look, this team had no spring practice. We've gotten in 22 of our 25 practices, so we didn't get our 25 in. So there are so many other factors when you put COVID in here that are different than any other opener that I've ever experienced. So it's hard to separate the two without, trying to answer your question. It's very difficult to do that.
We'll move next to John Fineran of the Associated Press.
John must be at a movie or reading a book. John, it's football week, John.
All right, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Come on, John, let's go.
All right, I just want to know what your health is like and how's the health of your team. Any changes in the depth chart coming into the week? And what about your testing numbers?
Thanks for asking about my health, John. You're the only one who really cares about my health. I appreciate it. All the guys that have been working with me for 11 years never ask me. You've only been with us a few, and you're the only one who really cares. I appreciate that. And as it relates to the depth chart, no, I don't think so. There's no real major changes on the depth chart. There's competitive battles at a number of positions that will continue to be throughout this, long season. But I don't know that there's any surprises, maybe for some, but not for me. We haven't gotten our testing back from Wednesday. There was they should be here, within the next hour or so. But we've had no COVID related issues in our last, I think our last 4 tests. They've been 0. So our guys have a pretty good routine set up right now.
We'll move to Mark Skol of WNDU.
Hey, Coach. How have you seen Dalen Hayes grow since his injury, both on and off the field, that led to him being voted as a team captain?
Yeah, great question. I think that, last year was, the injury, I think, really gave him, a different perspective on, playing this game and, what he needed to do to elevate his game. I think he saw the success of Julian and Khalid, who were great models and set a great standard. And I think it gave him a great perspective when he got injured as to the level that he wanted to see himself playing at. You never want somebody to get injured to learn some of those things, but I think it did, in fact, when he was able to take a step back, gave him a great perspective of where he wanted to go. And I think that he started to find his voice before, a lot of the turmoil we saw unfolding with, the Floyd incident and many others in our country last year. He spoke on mental health in an exclusive interview that he did, for the university, which was articulate and introspective in some instances about student athletes and the pressures that they have on a day-to-day basis. And I think that allowed him to find his voice a little bit off the field. And so it's been great to watch his maturity. And I think those two things in particular have set into action where he is today. And he's had, obviously what he's meant to our team in our rally and putting that together. And then certainly as a player on the field, you got to do it on both ends, right? You can't, if you're really good off the field, but not on the field, you're going to get some votes, but he's done it on both on the field and off the field. And that's why he's garnered so much respect from his peers. And that's why he's a captain.
We'll move next to Tim Priester of Irish Illustrated.
Brian, the other day, Ian Book said that you called Tuesday's practice one of the best Tuesdays you've been around. And I know the concerns with the opening game, but how confident, how good do you feel about this team based upon this week, but also in the weeks leading up to this game? And then where the heck did Dawson Geprich come from?
Well, Dawson's a transfer. We felt like we wanted to, strengthen the position. If we felt like we could take a grad transfer that had experience at that position, we certainly were going to do that. He was coming here for graduate work, and it just made sense for us to embrace him into our program. As it relates to the Tuesday practice, it was is high energy and look, working is one thing, but working with a purpose. It was as purposeful as a practice that I've had in my time here at Notre Dame, and that only can happen when your quarterback is on top of things and you have a returner like Ian Book. You've got a lot of veterans on both sides of the ball. You don't do it with a young team. This is a veteran team. They know how to practice in the right way. It was extremely purposeful. It was high energy. It was done with intent. There was an attitude in the way that they went to work. And there's a difference between, working with a purpose and just going out there and thinking that activity is achievement. They didn't do that. They were looking to set a standard, and they certainly did that. Now, we didn't win anything on that day, but we certainly set a standard of what this group can do. And if they practice and have a purpose like that consistently, their preparation will be outstanding, and they will have success on Saturdays.
We'll go next to Teddy Greenstein of the Chicago Tribune.
Ryan, good afternoon. Glad you're well. When the Big Ten canceled fall football, how concerned were you, and how grateful are you that the ACC did not follow?
Well, certainly when you hear, a conference decide not to play, you think that there's going to be, ripple effects. I said to our staff today, we have our staff meeting with our entire staff. 30 years of being a head coach, I really had a hard time envisioning not playing because I didn't know anything else for 30 years. But now it's hard to imagine that we've gotten here. So, from that respect, I think we had days where, when we heard noise and we saw things like that, we kind of just kept our head down and kept going. We knew we had good procedures and protocols, that we had good science, that we had doctors that were really following, what they believed to be the best protocols and procedures. And so we were following them diligently, hoping that we would get to this point. Didn't know it. I think we were probably like everybody else, Teddy, that we had some ups and downs in this. The Big Ten not playing was probably one of those bad days. But we were seeing great results. So I think that there was some internal optimism within the ACC. I was on daily conference calls for the first time in a long time, and not being in a conference here at Notre Dame, but now being in conference calls, I think we felt some comfort as a group that we were doing good things, and we were feeling confident that as a conference, we were going to hang in there. But that's kind of how it came together for us.
And we'll wrap it up here with Doug Farmer from NBC Sports.
Brian, just to confirm, is it safe to assume when you say you got through only 22 practices that you've never fallen short of 25 in these 30 years of coaching?
No, I I've fallen short of 25 before. It's just, the manner of it. I think I have been in a position where I've chosen not to get to 25. This time I would have liked to have gotten to 25. So I think it's just the different intent. I've had teams that were prepared to play after 2021 with strong spring balls, and where we've had in years past double sessions where I knew our team was fit and ready to play. And, you get that sense when they're banging each other and you're like, all right, we've had enough of hitting each other. You start to pull back. We could have used, another week or so. I'm sure Duke is going to feel the same way. No excuses. We'll be ready to play. But it's just different in the sense of the years where I didn't get to 25. It was my decision not to get to 25.
All right. With that, we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much, Coach, for your time.
Thank you, Claire. Appreciate it.